My next comment is about a comment you make in you made in the Golden Guides, Rebecca Tass and the Golden Guides. You say, I want to state for the record that I'm not interested in changing anything that already exists on Earth, as I am simply providing another option in quotes for truth seekers. However, your actions and your writings and proactive activism are ushering in the greatest, what I may call, cataclysmic shift in consciousness, when the majority of people come to know about you and your works. It is evident that you have not come to pamper the existing order and maintain the status quo. So, does your statement not, is your statement not oxymoronic? So you, at the same time, you intend to respect and maintain the established order. Yet your words, your writings, your actions are like digging a grave for what has been maintained for eons. So what can you say about this, what I may call oxymoron, in which you're involved in?
So oxymoron means what? You can't figure it out? Is that what it means?
I mean, it is just like it's like you intend to uphold something, and then you're pulling it down at the same time.
Okay, well, yeah,
to put it in context, yeah.
Yeah. Again, see, that's the literal part of ourselves. We want to think along the lines that whatever we can think or decide, it can be so. And it really can't be. You know, it's like the idea of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Well, that's a nice idea, but is it really so? It's not. Yeah, for a few moments here or there, whatever, you're nice to your neighbors. And, you know, people that hold to that attitude, you know, that's what they want things to be, but the rest of the world is doing what it's doing. So, you know, nothing is set in stone, realistically. It really can't be. So the idea is, overall, yes, I'm not interested in changing anything. That seems like a lot of work, and a lot of effort, and just a lot of pain and suffering and heartache, which just being here is that. And so I always liked starting things new. I always liked buying new trucks every couple of years for my business, and I paid a lot for it. But it was a new life for me. It was always a new life. That's what I made that. That's what the truck meant. It was a new life for me. That was my idea of things. And it was like a new start all the time. I restarted. I just didn't, just continued on with what is going on. So as I came into this and, through my experiences and all those years in the corporation and dealing with whatever, I saw this, and I saw that, I didn't want to drag this along, any of this. It was a reference of, doing something else but figuring it out at the same time. And so, yes, I reference things along those lines, and it's not. And we do refer to things. It's like, the forests are being burned, so we're into the trees, as an example. So it would seem as though we want to save the trees. Well, again, I can't save the trees, but I do refer to the trees, etc. And I can't save people from what they're deciding, but I do refer to what they're deciding. So I can't stop the chemtrail pilots, but we do refer to them, you see. So it would seem as though I want them to change their mind, but I'm not going to make that determination. All I'm going to do is, just like the boys do with us, they suggest certain things, they show you, they demonstrate certain things to make better choices and to let that be. But again, most people won't. So it would seem as though I want a change to occur. And so that is stepping in and saying, no, you can't do this anymore. We're taking it away. All right. That's deciding for others. And that's really, sometimes you got to do that. It's like your parents, when you were doing certain things, they came in and said, no, you're not doing that anymore, etc. And so sometimes it's like that. But for the most part, can't do things like that. I can't go out there and stop the chemtrail pilots. I can't stop them from putting up the Wi-Fi towers, etc. All these things that really harm us, all the big things. Maybe stop, some little things like, people throwing trash on the street out here. And so, yeah, I'll clean it up for a while, but then I'll confront them and say, why don't you just stop doing that? Why don't you just take out the trash? Why don't you just, throw it in the waste paper basket? Like they have trash cans at the beach saying, keep the beach clean, but not everybody does that. Some people just throw the trash out there anyhow. So are you going to go along and change these people? Well, the laws are accordingly. You can arrest them for littering. And so everything's a give and take here because we're in cause and effect. So we do the best we can, without trying to disturb others. But at the same time, that disturbance, or that so-called, even if it is a change, okay, can, if the individual recognizes it, refer to becoming more aware. Because this is what we're in creation for. In creation, we've created ideas about creation, which is understandable. All right, we go through all this, and ideas upon ideas upon ideas. So everybody has their ideas of creation. And for the most part, that's not it. Creation is what it is. But people have created the idea that this is life, and this is the ultimate, and this is just how it is. You live here, you die here, and you go somewhere or you don't, or whatever. Okay, everybody has their idea. But really, like I said, all of creation is an opportunity. That's all it is. And we're all in creation, and we decide when we're going to take on the opportunity to recognize the isness. And this is where life and the real guides see, because they're the intermediates. They see that it is necessary to have a proper reference to go by. And so, yes, things are what they are, Charles. It's not about that it's an oxymoron. It's not about change or not changing. It's not about any of these ideas. Learn to see what everything already is, according to even what people have decided, okay? And then you always have the opportunity, you alone, because it's you seeing it, to make better choices. So again, like the Africans, you see what they're doing. I've pointed it out. It looks good at first. Yeah, they're doing the groups with Miriam, and it's wonderful. It is. They're wonderful. But here it is years later. They're basically doing the same thing. And that is that I'm not saying what they're doing is wrong or right. I'm just suggesting that they decide to do something more than what they've done for themselves, not because I say so. That's not the idea at all. It's for them, so that they can become more aware and see, because otherwise they don't see what's coming up for themselves. And for the most part, because this is where you see people come and go, they get bored. The personal self gets bored. And then what does it do? You see some of them, they go back to religion even. Remember Joseph of years ago that was in the corporation, came to us was, he fought us at first, but then all of a sudden he got some little realizations, and it was all for us. But then at some certain point, he went back to religion, etc. So again, those are choices. So yeah, things aren't what we think they are, Charles. And it's not about any of those things, oxymoron or whatever. It's not about any of that. For me, I see it as there's creation and everything that's going on in creation. And then so because I'm in creation, I decide every moment this or that. That's all it is. It's just deciding. It's not about right or wrong, good or bad. It's not that. Kelsey and Val, I've been here. I always do the right thing. I've cussed at my neighbors, when they did the 4th of July. Felt a little bad about it, but I still did it. I called them knuckleheads even more than that because they made a cloud of smoke so big it was all poison. So I admitted I overreacted. And but okay, so what? So I see there's the isness life is, and there is creation, what we do in creation. And so what is being presented here, again, trying to put it in a category, that's where it becomes limiting. So, just like what Paul wrote when I used to read Paul's books, they flowed a particular way. They were just kind of, just kind of open like the air. It was kind of like an opening. It wasn't specifics, and so, and I kind of reference the same way. Yes, I get into the specifics, but at the same time, I provide an alternative, a way out, you see. So, and in a way, Paul got into more of the specifics because now all of a sudden you see that when you look at these things, you look at all the restrictions, especially in the Shariat, whatever he put there, he created certain restrictions simply because that was the training part. That was like boot camp. That was the babysitting days. And now it's of a particular. So, but people have the choice. And this is just what creation is. You the best you can, you look at what creation is, and you work along those lines. So you see, I look at, what I've implemented here and the ideas and discussed this, especially with Claudie, Ava, those that are closest to me, and Kelsey and Val, and now Henry and Eric, etc. And they've picked up on these things to, become involved with certain things that keep them busy and keep them focused. And at the same time, they're, sharing what we're doing here with the real guides and everything else. So they're very involved. And so they're a great demonstration of what is going on. So when we pick things apart from the mental body, it looks a particular. But those are ideas. So it's like having a set of plans for a house. You look at the blueprints and you're dreaming of the house, but it's still not the house. The blueprints are not the house. The blueprints are an idea about the actuality of the house. But once you've built the house, do you really need the blueprints anymore? No, because now you've got the house. It's a new experience, isn't it? Now you're into a new experience. So you go from one to the other. Or you can take the blueprints and you can put them behind glass in a frame and put them on the wall over your fireplace and show everybody, okay, this is a conversation piece. This is the blueprints of the house. This is what I live and go by. You see, you can do that too, can't you? I've never seen anybody do that, but that's an idea you can. Actually, it sounds like kind of a fun idea. Maybe it could be in one of those scary movies. But yeah, see, we can do anything with the mind and the emotions and whatever, but to really provide something that makes sense overall, yeah. And it would seem that change implies, but it really doesn't. It's like a new birth, yeah. So there can be family members in a family. There can be brothers and sisters, and all of a sudden there's a new baby. And I remember this picture of Ava she showed me when she was about 5 or 6, and then the new baby came, her sister, and Ava sat there with her arms crossed, and she wasn't too happy about this. So again, we all go through these experiences, but I see things as new every moment. That's the best part. And so again, when we try to define things, it becomes its own particular, you see. And is it really along the lines of what we're really trying to define or reference to? Is it? Yeah, so that becomes interesting, doesn't it? So the world is so overly defined that it's caving in on itself, it's clashing, it's confronting, it's battling, you see, over these definitions that are of a particular. And so providing an understanding here where people learn to see what life is realistically, that's huge. So until people really take the time to do that, they're just going to go through the same routines they always have. It's going to seem good for a while. It's going to be the good times, the bad times, etc. You know, this is why people like to celebrate the holidays and whatever. They want to forget, or they go on vacation. They want to forget what they're dragging along. They want to forget all these things that they're considering all the times. And so they think that celebrating and taking a vacation will do it. But guess what? They're still bringing themselves along. So until they recognize what's real, and this is what we're doing, you know, presenting, giving hints to this reality. And it's a toughie. It's a toughie. It is really, because life is big, but that's the adventure. Yes, Charles. So to take the time to do that, instead of just questioning things, but take the time to, how can I present this in a creative fashion? But at the same time, you've got to sit and talk like I do. You have the idea. I can write things, but there's still so much more definition to it. And then the individual has to decide to have their own experiences to figure it out. You see, there's a whole lot to it. But when we just share ideas and write them down, that's the first step. But that actually is a position of being confused. And it's more than evident. It sounds good, but people are still confused, aren't they? So when the politicians get up there and do their speeches, which sound really good for the moment, and people are like, oh my gosh, that sounds so good. But then they go back to their personal life, and everything is still screwed up. Nothing has changed. There's nothing new unless they decide to do something. So again, seeing the difference between the ideas that we suggest and what actually can take place or whatever, and to implement it and to follow through and to manage it and to become more aware or whatever with it, it's a whole lot, isn't it? It would seem to be simple. I try to keep it simple myself. This is what's so cool about the new you, because you talked about the colors activating chakras, and then you get into the particulars again of the body parts and all that. I love the new you because it refers to the allness life is. That's it. The complete allness life is. It's not about projecting. It's not about this or that or soul traveling or whatever we used to do. It's about the isness where you're complete without any restrictions. That's what's so cool about it. So, yes. Again, rather lengthy, Charles, but there's so many ways to describe it.
We hear about self-realization in the spiritual groups, and we know that it is the real you that is permanent, or the U-turn that is all there is, that needs to be realized. So what I want to ask is, do we need self-realization too, as new students, or this is just an old spiritual idea that is abandoned? We don't need it. We just need to know that we are free beings of real light. What about this self-perception and knowledge of the true self? Or is it something that is limited to only to spiritual circles and we are not concerned about? We know that we are free beings of real light. The real you is a free being of real light. But we have this just as a mental concept. I want to think it's a mental concept. So are we also involved in this self-realization, realization of the real you, or it is something that we just have to shelve, just not think about it? Or how do we realize it? Duane?
That's very good, Charles. Actually, I'm glad you asked that. We'll extend this a little bit. What I've done is, the old ideas were self-realization, God realization. Okay, we've come along to know these things in the spiritual path. And really, when you look at these ideas, it's all about just you, right? It's like, oh, I want self-realization for me. And oh, I want God realization for me. You see, it was all about the me, me, me thing, wasn't it? Well, what I've done is I've brought this around to where self-realization is now, I've implemented, it's exchanged for the whole of creation. Because, see, the self, the personal self, is the 5 bodies and basically the 5 levels. And this now includes the deep dark border in creation. So there's your self-realization, but now it's taking on a bigger picture, and that is that the idea of the self and recognizing your position with this self part is the whole of creation, and not just the little me, me, me thing, to where you're a little member and it's like, oh, gee, I have my first initiation, or oh, gee, I have my 3rd or 5th initiation, the me, me, me thing. Now it's the whole of creation. And you see the corporation, they're not concerned about the world. They're not concerned about creation, but they are concerned about where they're going to go in their little happy hunting ground or their little heaven, etc. Like, it's all about the me, me, me thing. So what I've done is substitute the whole of creation for self-realization. That is that take a look at creation in relationship to your real self, and then you'll start to recognize the real you, to where you see that these people that are after self-realization, they don't even recognize their intent. And then the whole of life is what I call the real universes. I call it something, but I just like that, and respelled the name universe, because those are the real universes. These are just realms. These are just places in life, very small and insignificant compared to the total life. So you have, and I substituted that for God realization. It's the isness. Life is, it's the all is, you see? So the old terms are really about the personal self, just like when Paul was here. It was about the personal self, and it was about the personal identity, and that's why the focus was on Paul at the time. Now, do you see the difference, Charles?
Yeah, and then I see the difference now.
Yeah, see, it's a bigger picture. It's not about the personal me anymore. Really, the self-realization idea was fine at first. Just like the corporation, it was fine at first. But as time and space went along, and events and ideas, it all became about the personal self, didn't it? And even people taking LSD or drugs, it's like, oh, I had God realization. You see, all about the personal self, you see? And so had to bring about a new plan, a new idea, a new presentation, you see? Now you see the difference. There's a bigger picture. Again, forgetting that personal self, because, when you're involved, you forget yourself when you're at work or whatever. You see, eventually you recognize that your awareness, and just the fact that you're the real awareness, you don't need the personal self anymore. And it's just like a person with Alzheimer's. You don't have to remember anything, because you're always now, and you're aware now. And so as you stand real and recognize that awareness, you'll see that you don't need the 5 bodies at all. You stand in a pure and real position, and everything is accessible, you see? But if you want relationships, as you've always had, personally and essentially and all these things, yes, then that's in the body forms. Then you utilize the body and things start to happen and one thing leads to another and voila, you're back into more lifetimes, aren't you, for the most part. But there's a way to manage that too, but that's just an idea. But you're really awareness. So these old ideas that don't work anymore and reference nothing, what is God realization? What is the Mahanta and all these things? You see, people have been induced with these things, and really, what do they mean? Well, today the Mahanta is the prime tapliner with Joni, interfering, seducing, and vampirizing people. So that's what the Mahanta is now. It's not, see, the Mahanta idea was a reference that Paul created according to what he recognized at the time. That's the difference. And so they took his title, that's all they got, but they never recognized what Paul did. They just got the title, and it became more and more distorted. The title is still there, like the President of the United States. You see the same title there, but the individuals and what they're deciding in their intent, that's the reality of that position they've taken on. So, yes, it's more so than what is seen. So, yes, it's been replaced. Self-realization is now creation. You learn to recognize what's going on in creation, and this is up to you to stand real with the all is. This is why the guides are here. They deal with the whole of creation, and so the first step is for the individual to see what's going on in creation and do something, to step up and to do something realistic that makes sense, that doesn't destroy the natural environment the best we can. But we're at the mercy of certain things too. We got our autos and whatever, etc. But at the same time, we're moving towards something. We're utilizing that idea. And the bigger step is the recognition of the real universes and the isness. Life is seeing from seeing how the is sees all of life. And that's not for everybody. So yes, it has all been replaced with something a lot better. See, I didn't change anything. I didn't change the old ideas. What I've done is created a new position that replaces what was. That's all. And that still exists. I didn't change it. I didn't get rid of it. It's still there if people want it. And people in their mind bodies will think, well, you did this or you said this or whatever. Well, it doesn't get rid of it. I talk about Harry and Joni. It doesn't get rid of them. They're still there. They're still doing everything they've done. What I'm referring to is something that's very real and beneficial for everybody. What they're doing is only beneficial to themselves, but actually it's not. It's actually put them in a position of almost total demise. And let's see if they ever get out of creation. But then again, that's their choice. Like the Queen of Orion, she'll start over and go through the process of millions of lifetimes because she's in the Phantom Zone now, because she loves her arrogance more. So, and she can hang on to that forever. She will be living with her arrogance for who knows how long, and she'll come into new embodiments at some point, like a little atom or amoeba, and she'll still have that arrogance that she won't even recognize, and she'll probably go through thousands and hundreds of thousands of lifetimes before she possibly gets a peek at it, that she's carried this from previous cycles in creation. Whoa, it becomes a lot, doesn't it? Yeah, it becomes way too much. This is why I'm so grateful for what I know. Gratitude. You can write about that one too, Charles. So you got about 25 groups to do so far. And there'll be more. Yeah, so have fun with that. I like the groups on Facebook. They're awesome. And I'm very grateful to Kelsey that she duplicates them, puts them out there and shares them. Again, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just trying to make sense of what we're dealing with here in some particular way, like the sun shining. Does that make sense or does it not? I mean, that's the step. And so, yeah, I get a little passionate about this because I got to deal with it too. I don't want to be I'm living in all this Wi-Fi. It's going to be 5G, 6G, whatever, chemtrails, what have you. Ava, where she is, chemtrails all day long. Everything's poison. You know, it's time to get off the planet. Okay, that's coming up too. So anyhow, yeah, thank you so much. Until next Saturday. It's always Saturday, Charles. We'll see you then.
Thank you, Dan.
Yes, thank you. And tell everybody hi. Tell Miriam hi. and that, hey, have fun with the challenge of presenting a benefit of some projects that these kids can do. Get them busy so that they're okay. Get them off themselves, you see?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
on that, Jane.
Yeah, get them to get past what they've come to know instead of dragging it along and then falling back into it and being where? Lost again and confused? No, get beyond it to where, they have a whole new life and they can become self-sufficient with the adventure life is. Yeah. Forget the old stuff. It's a reference, but it's not a lifestyle. It's nothing that works anymore. So we went through it. It's like old snakeskins.